This has been a very exciting and will be a very exciting new chapter. There's nothing we cannot achieve as long as the Republican Party remains united. And in January 2027, we will have a larger Republican House, a larger Republican Senate, and our country will be richer, safer, stronger, prouder, greater, freer, and ever before.
Now, that's a message of unity last night in Florida. President Trump rallying Republicans to come together, stay together, and advance his agenda and make the most of their Washington trifecta, which they currently hold. And you know it is tenuous. Brand new hour begins right now. I'm Bill Hemmer. Dana's got the day off today.
You're stuck with me.
I like that. You're good. Thanks, man.
Hi there, everybody. I'm Martha McCallum, and it is great to be here with Bill this morning on America's Newsroom. So the party's showing off a unified front at the House GOP annual retreat as the focus turns to capitalizing on Republican majorities, I should say, in Congress, which is very important and often does not yield what they want it to. And this time they're determined to not let that happen. Driving the president's agenda, legislative priorities through Capitol Hill, the House Republicans Conference Chair, McClain, doubled down on what they expect last hour. Watch us.
Everyone is really excited, very united to deliver on the mandate that the American people gave us. No one is going to get 100% of what they want. Not even me, right? But we're going to be put in a better spot, and we're going to put the American people in a better spot.
Okay, Aisha Hazni, she's in Doral, Florida, with the latest on what happened last night and what the message is today. Aisha, good morning to you. Hello.
Yep. Bill and Martha, good morning to you. So President Trump last night acknowledged that he doesn't have the wide margin in the House. He can't afford to lose 3 or 4 Republicans or even less than that. Unfortunately, not every Republican in the House GOP conference is here at this unifying annual retreat. In fact, I was just told that only about 170 out of the 218 are here in Miami, and they're missing critical figures like Chip Roy, who, as you know, has demanded cuts and offsets. He's not here, and apparently neither is Congressman Andy Biggs. We just found that out as well. Now, this was the first time that President Trump addressed the full GOP conference in person since becoming the president, and he laid out his agenda, his goals to expand his tax cuts, pass border security and energy legislation, also raise the debt ceiling. And once again, he told the GOP not to get bogged down in how many bills, 1 or 2, that it would take to get it done. Right now, the House Freedom Caucus continues to push forward 2 separate bills, with tax cuts pushed to the latter bill, and Republicans are saying they will pass whatever they come up with.
You give me 1, we're going to pass that. You give us 2, we're going to pass that. All the committees are doing their work. We'll have a vote on a budget resolution next week, which unlocks the process, and then it'll move forward from there. But our job is to make sure that every one of our members has ownership of this process.
And Bill, I'll be talking with Chip Roy in just a little bit to figure out why he's not here, why he didn't choose to be here, and what he thinks about all of this as they're trying to unify this conference again. Can't lose really any Republican. Yeah. Bill?
His answers will be interesting. Aisha Hazni, thanks on that. Live in Doral. Enjoy the weather. See you back in D.C. soon. Martha, what's happening?
All right, let's bring in Jason Chaffetz and Joe Concha for more on this. Jason, let's start with you. Sounds like about half showed up for this conference, and they've got a very slim margin. So how's this looking?
Yeah, you have 48 members who didn't even show up. What I learned in Congress is it's very much a team sport. It's sort of like being on the Cincinnati Bengals, Bill, because you know what? It's rah, rah, rah in the locker room. We're all together. We're going to go out and kick some. And then they get out on the field and everybody starts calling their own plays. You have the best coach in Donald Trump. And when he calls a play, you better darn well get in line. But I tell you, just one goes sideways and then you can't get there. So you have the SALT crew. You have people that want to raise spending. You have people that want to cut spending. You have people that want all these special things. And the one thing they're all fearful of is Donald Trump. If it happens, it's going to happen because of Donald Trump. But I color me concerned because I don't know that they can all get together.
Well, Trump's singing your same song because he says you got to stick together. Kevin McCarthy, former House Speaker, saying the same thing. Joe?
That concern is justified. Fortunately, this time, it's a lot different from 2017. as it is in 2025. Remember, 2017, Donald Trump did enter with the House and with the Senate, and his first year was basically chaos. There was infighting internally within his own team. Obviously, the people that were in charge of the House and of the Senate were not on the same page as Trump. This time around, it does feel different with Mike Johnson, with John Thune, and the fact that Donald Trump won the popular vote and won every swing state. There is more of a feel of a mandate here. And plus, the Chief of Staff, Susie Wiles, her mandate is do not air these grievances in public. If you have a disagreement on some things that are in this big, beautiful bill that you may not like, we do that internally. Don't put it out on social media so you could get some cable news hits at this point. The three priorities are this. Forget DEI, it's TEI. It's taxes, it's energy, it's immigration. You get those three things done, you have to compromise on some other things, but that's what Trump
Well done,
wants.
Joe.
I mean, Jason, it seems to me that these people, if they don't get in line, they're going to get primaried very quickly. They're all running again. And no one wants to be pinned with the person who did not allow the Trump agenda to go through with this kind of momentum.
You better have that conversation with the Freedom Caucus, and you better have that conversation with some members who are much rather get on Instagram and become Instagram stars out there. You also have the SALT crew, the people who want to deal with the state and local taxes. They have promises they made with constituents. I think there's maybe some wiggle room there, but I'm telling you, they couldn't even get everybody to even show up to the meeting. So let alone how are you going to actually get on the same page? Donald Trump wants one big, beautiful bill. Maybe it parses into two, but
And the meeting's in Florida. It's not like, hey, meet me in Minnesota. Like, you had a chance to go somewhere warm for 3 days.
I like the quote from Tom Cole from Oklahoma. It says, Trump made politics fun again. So if he did show up, you had a good time at least. Go ahead. But his point about the Freedom Caucus is very well taken.
And it should be well taken. No, the fun part, again, is absolutely true. When you have an incoming president who's dancing YMCA with a sword in his hand, that's fun. And overall, this cabinet is so young and so vibrant when compared to, you saw the split screens during the hearings, when you have Pete Hegseth or you have Pam Bondi, who, I don't know where that's 59 years old, but go figure. I had no idea, right? Or Marco Rubio, Tulsi Gabbard. This is a young, vibrant, energetic cabinet that he has coming in. And 100%. Democrats, ironically, look like the old party.
So let's talk about Democrats for a moment. Mr. Fetterman, Senator Fetterman, went on The View, and they weren't too happy that he went to visit President Trump, and they were less happy with what he thought of him. Watch this.
Overall, it was a positive experience. I mean, he was kind. He was cordial. It wasn't in any kind of theater. It wasn't trying to get your picture taken to kind of put something out on social media. It was just really a conversation. It was just a straight up conversation. And I just have a rule: like, I'm going to engage and have a conversation. That's anyone playing it straight, and that's be doing my job again.
Oh.
How'd that go over?
You know what? How refreshing. How refreshing. Hey, John Fetterman is the voice of reason on the Democratic side of the aisle.
100%.
And remember, all the Democrats campaigned on, oh, we're going to bring the country together. Joe Biden, we're going to unite the country. Then you actually have somebody say, hey, I'm willing to have the discussion. And Donald Trump goes to Southern California, invites all the Democrats to sit around there. And they didn't say much to Donald Trump because when the cameras are rolling and it's open, guess what? They're pretty closed-lipped. But behind the scenes, this is not who they are.
It's like 1995 all over again when you listen to John Fetterman. Remember, Bill Clinton takes a shellacking, 1994, loses the House by big numbers. He could have done two things. He could have run to the left and played the resistance like we see so many Democrats and their allies in the media do, or do what John Fetterman's doing. Actually listen. Actually consider compromising. And remember what they accomplished back in the 90s. Amazing, Newt Gingrich and Bill Clinton. Balanced budget amendment, not spending what you don't have, budget surpluses, the welfare reform, the era of big government is over. Americans want that. They want more of what John Fetterman is describing.
Fetterman said I'd make a pretty terrible Republican. So for those who were thinking that he was going to cross over, I took out the list.
He may occasionally vote like one, though. But the problem for President Trump isn't in the Senate; it's in the House. So that is maybe he can influence some of the folks over there.
Nice to see you, fellas.
Thanks, you guys.
Thank you. Jason,
See you. I can't wait to hear this bet. Who has who?
Oh, stand by. Okay.
Don't formulate it.
In the meantime, we got a hearing right now on the Panama Canal happening right now on the Hill. Senator Ted Cruz out of Texas is chairing this, giving right now an opening statement just moments ago. Here is how that went.
We're here today to examine a monument to American ingenuity, the Panama Canal. Senator Moreno down there suggested we open the hearing by playing Van Halen and Panama. We may not do that, But between the American construction of the Panama Canal, the French effort to build an isthmus canal, and America's triumphant completion of that canal, the major infrastructure projects across Panama cost more than 35,000 lives. For the final decade of work on the Panama Canal, the United States spent nearly $400 million, equivalent to more than $15 billion today. The Panama Canal proved a truly invaluable asset, sparing both cargo ships and warships the long journey around South America. When President Carter gave it away to Panama, Americans were puzzled, confused, and many outraged. With the passage of time, many have lost sight of the canal's importance, both to national security and to the U.S. economy. Not President Trump. When he demanded fair treatment for American ships and goods, many in the media scoffed. But the Panama Canal was not just given away. President Carter struck a bargain. He made a treaty. And President Trump is making a serious and substantive argument that that treaty is being violated right now. This committee has jurisdiction under the Senate rules over the Panama Canal, and today we will examine evidence of potential violations. President Trump has highlighted two key issues. Number one, the danger of China exploiting or blocking passage through the canal. And number two, the exorbitant costs for transit. Chinese companies are right now building a bridge across the canal at a slow pace so as to take nearly a decade. And Chinese companies control container ports at either end. The partially completed bridge gives China the ability to block the canal without warning. And the ports give China ready observation posts to time that action. This situation, I believe, poses acute risks to U.S. national security. Meanwhile, the high fees for canal transit disproportionately affect Americans because U.S. cargo accounts for nearly 3/4 of canal transits. U.S. Navy vessels pay additional fees that apply only to warships. Canal profits regularly exceed $3 billion. This money comes from both American taxpayers and consumers in the form of higher costs for goods. American tourists aboard cruises, particularly those in the Caribbean Sea, are essentially captive to any fees Panama chooses to levy for canal transits. And they have paid unfair prices.
That hearing continues at the moment. Just want to share a little bit of what Ted Cruz's opening remarks were. Don't really know how this issue is going to go, but it appears the decision lies in Panama, but it's a tug of war between Washington and Beijing, so certainly something to watch, and we shall. So that was
That's
interesting.
what it's all about,
yeah,
right?
Indeed,
that tug of war between Washington and Beijing over this very crucial opening and big profit center. So how about this? Lots of change going on, and Google announcing that they will update the Maps app to use the name Gulf of America and also Mount McKinley. Again, this after President Trump signed an executive order last week renaming the Gulf of Mexico and Alaska's was currently called Denali Mountain, but most of us a lot of people missed the Denali part. They thought it was still called Mount McKinley, but it's not. So this is a pretty big significant change.
I'm looking at Google Maps right now to see if Gulf of America is on here. It's taking a while to load up here, but I'll try and get you an answer here shortly. All right. So here we go. No, there it is.
Gulf of Mexico.
I guess I need the update on the phone.
All
right. 14 past now. A lot of news in the tech world, rather, because of this. You've got a stunning rise of a Chinese AI app wreaking havoc on U.S. stocks, how the tech sector now is trying to get a read on what is a real threat and what perhaps is not. So that's coming up.
It's a wake-up call, no matter what. Meanwhile, drone videos showing alleged cartel gunmen suspected of firing at American border agents. The details on that and what it says about the larger battle to regain control of our southern border.
Also, Martha, you got the Trump administration facing some blowback in its efforts to dismantle DEI in government, how that's playing out across the federal government and the Pentagon especially, in a moment.
What piece of DeepSeek AI from a Chinese company should be a wake-up call for our industries that we need to be laser focused on competing to win, because we have the greatest scientists in the world. We always have the ideas. We're always first.
All right, so here's how we were going on the NASDAQ anyway. Tech heavy, more than 50% of the stocks are in technology on the NASDAQ. We're kind of cruising along here. Yeah, felt pretty good until yesterday. Then we saw this, man, and that's a significant nosedive for the tech sector. $1 trillion on paper, but the biggest one clearly NVIDIA at almost $600 billion. On paper now, having a little bit of a recovery today, and we'll see how it goes. By the way, NVIDIA is really, I mean, it's done so well over the past 3 years, too. So if you're investing in it, you've done well yourself. This is the #1 app all day yesterday at the App Store for Apple. It was DeepSeek. People wanted to know about it. They want to explore for themselves. That was #1. We'll see if it stays there today. Last thing here, just in terms of context, all right? You look at the top 10 losses on paper over the past 2 or 3 years, 8 of the 10 were NVIDIA, okay? The 2 exceptions were Meta in February of 2022 and Amazon 2022 in April of that year. So, but this one, I mean, this is a stunner. That's about $300 billion versus $600 billion, so it's almost double on paper the largest loss. Let's cruise on over here and we'll get some perspective as to whether or not this is something, how much we need to pay attention to it. Martha, we got a friend here with us, don't we?
Hello there, Brian.
Hey,
Brian
good morning.
Berger, co-host of the Big Money Show. I mean, everybody is trying to dig into this story, figure out what's going on here. What's your take on it, Brian?
Well, okay. DeepSeek is the new thing in a space that loves new things. So it's not surprising that it had a big market effect. What everybody is crazy about is the fact that it can do what all the other AI chatbots can do at about 1/10 of the cost in the computing power. If that's true, and if it's as good as they say, that could upend the whole space, right? Because we've been talking about hundreds of billions of dollars on chips. We've been talking about nuclear facilities strapped to these AI data centers to power them. If DeepSeek is doing what they say they're doing, it'll change all the economics of that. But DeepSeek needs to be doing what it says it's doing. This is a Chinese company, data out of China isn't always reliable, so let's just not get ahead of ourselves for a second.
So
they didn't have a lot of people like COVID either, as I remember.
In a lot of areas,
yes.
Yeah, there's a lot of spaces where you got to check the data, and I would say this might be
what
one
I'm
of them.
told is they're using older NVIDIA chips, and NVIDIA keeps advancing itself. That's one. And the other thing is that they copied OpenAI. So they can do a measure of what OpenAI is doing, but they can't do everything that OpenAI is doing. But they did do it for a lot cheaper, if indeed this is true.
They piggybacked on OpenAI and kind of what OpenAI had built. And they use older chips, but the other thing they do is they train their models just a little bit differently. So one way I heard it explained is instead of having a librarian read every book in the library, it actually goes and finds the experts in the areas that you're querying. And that means it takes less power to get the thing going. So they're trying something different, no question about it. But the question is, can it hit the upper ends of what like a ChatGPT can do and other? Eventually, they're going to figure that out, right? The economics suggest AI is going to get cheaper and it's going to get more powerful. And if you talk to the top tech guys, DeepSeek may have taken a leapfrog move here.
Yeah, I mean, you think about the original calculators, how big they were, original computers, and that's the track that we're on here. But one of my questions is about security. And everybody downloading DeepSeek all across the country right now. And we talk about TikTok and the danger it presents. And now we've got everybody, Bill just showed us, it's the #1 app.
Yeah, and you know, if you download the app, what you're going to find out is that the data that you're inputting into it is being stored in China. So you have to ask yourself, do you want to take that bargain? This is a Chinese company. We know the Chinese communists, anytime they want, can say, open the thing up, let's see what's inside. So, you know, there's a desire to embrace the new thing. But man, whether it's TikTok or this, you gotta temper it with some wisdom about where it's coming from. And I think Donald Trump got it exactly right.
But let's get to some of that, all right?
All right.
So if you ask the question, what happened during the 1989 Tiananmen Square protest, this will say, sorry, that's beyond my current scope. If you ask, tell me about the Uyghurs, sorry, that's beyond my current scope. If you ask, is Xi Jinping a good leader, sorry, that's beyond my current scope. So it goes on and on like this. Now, Martha has David Sachs on at 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
He's the crypto king that's been appointed by Donald Trump. He said DeepSeek R1, that's called R1, shows that the AI race will be very competitive and that President Trump is right to rescind the Biden EO, which hamstrung American AI companies without asking whether China would do the same. Obviously not parenthetically, he writes, I'm confident in the U.S., but we can't be complacent.
Can I just say, when it says it's beyond my scope, what that means is it's beyond what the Chinese communists allow the scope to be. Okay, that's a euphemism for saying this is controlled by the party. That's very important. Now, to get to Donald Trump, the way he responded to this yesterday was, we've got to compete. David Sachs says, we've got to compete. There's two really important components of that. One is, you can't regulate AI with government approvals for everything. We will lose the race. The other thing is, you can't take your antitrust people and sick them on every company who's innovating in this space because we don't know who the winners are going to be. Thankfully, the present administration has rolled back both of those things that Biden was trying to do, and I think that gives us a great shot at competing.
Wow, great point.
Government controlling AI is not going to create innovation. There's no way. Brian, thank you, very much. Big conversation.
Good luck with the new show.
Thanks.
Too.
Appreciate it, man.
So President Trump scoring an early foreign policy win during his first week on the job, and the White House says they are just getting started. Senator Bill Hagerty serves on the Foreign Affairs Committee, and he joins us next. Plus, new polls show Mexicans are fed up with illegal immigration. We crossed the border to learn how the migrant crisis is affecting our southern neighbors.
It's not just a problem in America. New polling shows that people in Mexico are fed up with a surge of illegal immigration. From Los Angeles, William Lajeunesse is looking at that today. And William, what did you find out south of the border?
Well, Bill, you know, Mexico is tired of being a doormat. No longer is it just a pass-through for Central Americans. They have weekly caravans in the south, massive migrant camps in Mexico City, and overrun shelters in the north. In multiple polls, Mexicans are saying no más.
It's a huge problem in our neighborhood. The noise, the contamination, the garbage, the violence.
Hugo Sanchez is fed up with illegal immigration in Mexico.
Defecan, orinan.
They defecate and urinate in public, says Leticia Melendez, who hopes President Trump will help Mexico close its southern border.
He may have some influence with our government, so together they can solve the problem. We can't continue like this.
Francisco calls the migrant influx an invasion.
We don't know these people, where they come from, if they have a criminal record. Most are unemployed because they don't do anything.
70% of Mexicans call illegal immigration excessive, and 40% want to limit or stop it altogether.
No todos los migrantes somos malos.
But this Venezuelan migrant says they're not all bad. He and many others are stranded waiting for asylum interviews in the U.S.
It's really not good to enter any country illegally, but the app isn't working.
Mexico now buses many migrants back to Guatemala as President Sheinbaum sees a change in public opinion.
We don't know the situation in their countries. No, many of these people is dangerous people. How the government have to do? They have to resolve this.
So they're putting more National Guard on the southern border. Mexico is also building massive shelters, 2,000, 5,000 capacity bill on the border states to receive returning migrants. Mexican nationals separated by sex and age are given a food and welfare card, 2,000 pesos, and free transportation home. The non-Mexican migrants are told to voluntarily return to their countries, but they're not getting any breaks if they stay.
Wow. Thank you, William. We'll follow it. I know you will. In LA, thank you, William Lajeunesse.
It's all going to come roaring back. We're going to put tariffs on outside countries and outside people that really mean us harm. China's a tremendous tariff maker, and India and Brazil and so many countries. And so we're not going to let that happen any longer because we're going to put America first.
That was President Trump reaching into the tariff toolbox to notch some foreign policy wins on his first week back. Senator Bill Hagerty, Republican of Tennessee and a member of the Senate Foreign Affairs Committee, joins me now. Senator, great to have you with us. Your reaction to these tariff moves, how you think they're working so far, and what comes next?
Well, Martha, I think we got to put this all into context. If you think about the tariff situation worldwide, the United States has been treated unfairly for years. President Trump has constantly and consistently talked about reciprocity. This goes all the way back to World War II. We created very favorable terms of trade for nations in Europe, nations like Japan, whose economies had been devastated. We should have time limited. We should have put some sort of GDP per capita limit on that. Because right now, the United States has the lowest tariffs on a trade-weighted basis of any major economy. Other countries have been taking advantage of us. President Trump sees this, and access to our economy is a privilege, not a right. You saw what happened in Colombia. He knows how to use leverage. He knows how to essentially let them know that he's not going to tolerate bad behavior. And if countries like Colombia don't want to cooperate with us, they're not going to have access to our markets.
Yeah, I think it's a foreign policy 101 case that we watched with Colombia, how quickly the turnaround happens when there is a financial axe sort of held above your head. It's amazing what can happen very quickly. I want to ask you about the developments in pausing foreign aid that we heard about from the State Department and what that's going to look like, a reevaluation on a country-by-country basis. How much do we give you and why, and should we, right?
These are all very legitimate and reasonable questions to ask, Martha. There's a lot of pearl clutching going on in Washington right now. But I can tell you, back in 2016, 2017, the State Department acted as quickly as they could to shovel money out the door to NGOs, to the UN, to agencies that didn't have the U.S. interest, U.S. best interest at heart. I think it's entirely appropriate that Secretary Rubio put a pause on all of this. I sent a letter to every agency head in the United States government letting them know, line and verse, how they would violate U.S. law if they were to, quote, reprogram funds at the very end. We're going to get a report on all of that here in the next couple of weeks. So I think this is something that's entirely legitimate. It's something that should happen, and we need to make certain that taxpayer monies are being used for things that advance America's interest.
Yeah, it's a Doge philosophy really across the board on a case-by-case basis, an examination that I think is probably very much long overdue. Let me ask you about the very big hearings that are coming up for crucial members of that President Trump chose for his cabinet. You've got RFK Jr., Kash Patel, Tulsi Gabbard. We saw what happened with the Hegseth nomination. It got through. He was confirmed, of course, but Collins, Murkowski, and McConnell all voted against. And then you had Tillis sort of wavering at the end, which I think has raised a lot of questions about how the rest of these are going to go. What do you see?
Well, I actually feel very good about how the nominees are moving through the process. You think about Senator Thune, he's been extremely diligent in terms of setting up a process that will get our nominees confirmed as rapidly as possible. The Democrats have done everything they can to slow us down, but Senator Thune, our leader, has done a terrific job of making sure that we're moving at pace. I feel good about our nominees. Pete Hegseth certainly had everything, including the kitchen sink, thrown at him, and he navigated the process very well. And I think as people got to know him, got to hear from him, they got to realize they had a very smart individual there who is very capable. I expect the same from the other nominees, and that process continues apace here this week.
What would you say to those who might be on the fence about Tulsi Gabbard, for example?
Well, President Trump is entitled to his nominees. I think you've got a tremendous number of challenges that our nation is facing right now. President Trump opened a very large tent as he came into office, and he selected people that he think will help him achieve his goals, achieve the promises that he made to the American public. So I think on balance, a Republican should certainly defer to President Trump. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion. Obviously, you've seen people vote in different ways from me, but on the whole, I think people should give President Trump the benefit of the doubt.
Senator Hagerty, thank you. Always good to see you, sir.
Thank you, Martha.
Thanks a lot.
Likewise.
Are you here to see me?
No, silly. I go here.
You go where?
Harvard. Law school.
You got into Harvard Law?
What, like it's hard?
Right, like it's hard, right? Not hard for the character Elle Woods, but going to trial is a little tougher for Reese Witherspoon, and that's today's Hemmer Celebrity News. Known for her role in Legally Blonde, the Oscar winner never thought her fictional law degree would actually give her special treatment. That changed after being voted jury forewoman during a Beverly Hills trial.
I I was like, why did you pick me? And they were like, you went to law school. Who else would? Y'all, this is really upsetting. I definitely did not go to law school. I didn't finish college. I started realizing people don't know much about the law.
Yeah, maybe her too, right? So anyway, she played the role very well, and she saw her just rewards.
She's very smart too.
Yes,
She'd probably be a very good foreperson.
Hey, right about that. She'd be a good leader, right?
Yeah, she did graduate from. I saw the movie.
Oh.
She went to law school, right?
That's right.
She got a big acting career. That's why she didn't finish college. So anyway, moving right along here, Border Patrol agents trading gunfire with suspected cartel members at the southern border, and it was all caught on video. Texas DPS Lieutenant Chris Oliveira is here to tell us what happened.
So, you know, with the border, danger is a constant presence for those risking their lives to keep us safe here at home. And U.S. Border Patrol agents coming under fire from suspected Mexican cartel members in this drone video you see. It comes amid the Trump administration's intensifying crackdown against illegals. Lieutenant Chris Oliveira with the Texas Public Safety Department live in Mission, Texas today. Lieutenant, good morning. Welcome back to our program.
Good morning, Bill.
What happened with these cartels and these shots fired? Let's start there. Take us through it.
Well, Bill, what you're seeing on that video right there, that is one of the most active, violent border regions on the southern border right now. And you had Border Patrol agents that were patrolling that area yesterday, and they came under fire by these armed gunmen that you see in that video right there from Mexico. The agents were able to return fire. Thankfully, none of the agents were hurt. They were able to seek cover, and that's when we actually responded with some of our state resources, our state troopers, drone operators, and even our Texas military soldiers, and we were able to keep a close eye on those armed gunmen. That's why you're seeing that drone footage right there. And one of the challenging parts of that particular event was that we actually have the Mexican military on the Mexican side that responded as well. And these 4 armed gunmen actually left Mexico and actually sought refuge on a piece of land that's right in the middle of U.S. and Mexico, in the middle of the river. So right now we're trying to determine if that piece of land belongs to Mexico or the U.S., and if it does in fact belong to the U.S., then we'll consult with the land commission to see if we can actually acquire that piece of land, just like we did last year back in 23. We were able to acquire a 170-acre piece of land in that same area as well, and we were able to take away that piece of land, that refuge from the cartels, and actually secure it. So we want to provide as much resources and provide as much safety for law enforcement on the border as possible.
Let me share some numbers with the audience. This is January 24, 25, and 26, just a couple days ago, over the weekend. The Biden numbers were pretty high during those days. And the apprehensions, 24, 25, 26, is in the hundreds, 665, 731, 582. I don't know what you chalk that up to, sir, if it's just a change of administration and Donald Trump talking tough. But when he declared the cartel as a foreign terrorist organization, what was the impact of that declaration?
Well, first off, real quick on the numbers. So last year, 2024, in Texas, we had numbers down over 87% because of our efforts. Now you add what the administration is doing right now with policy and a more aggressive stance on border security, numbers across the border, across the 9 sectors across the southwest border have been under 1,000 since January 20th. That is a significant decrease in illegal border crossings between the ports of entry. Now, as you continue to put more pressure on the cartels, we're going to continue to see their intimidation tactics escalate. It does impact their profits. When you combat, human smuggling or even decrease the number of illegal border crossings between the ports of entry, that is going to impact the cartel. It's going to impact their profit, and that's why we expect to see more of this escalation from the cartels. But now that we have a federal partner and more resources, especially at the military level, we actually can dedicate and have a more aggressive stance toward the cartels.
Well, it's not even February. Here's Governor Abbott, so he's sending you additional resources like the federal government has already. He said for the past 4 years, Texas held the line against the Biden administration's crisis and the refusal to protect Americans. Finally, we have the federal government working to end this crisis. So Abbott is sending 400 more soldiers. He's going to send the C-130s, big planes, big cargo planes there, and Chinook helicopters. Lieutenant, for those at home watching, what's the atmosphere like now? How have things been different?
Well, we've seen a complete 180 from one day to the next. We're seeing more arrests being made. We're seeing that throughout the country as well. More support now at the federal level, which we never had for the last 4 years. everything that we did in Texas, especially what Governor Abbott has done with Operation Lone Star, has been challenged every step of the way by our own federal government when it came to infrastructure, when it came to criminal arrests. Now that we can actually go out there and have a more aggressive stance on border security and actually focus more on that transnational criminal activity and focus more on criminal arrests, it gives us much more leverage now. And working together with our federal partners, we are determined, we are committed that we can actually secure the border and actually provide more public safety for the entire country. So again, what the Governor Abbott has been doing for the last 4 years, and even now deploying more soldiers and even more DPS special agents to work in conjunction with Homeland Security operations, is going to provide a much more robust border security effort.
Okay,
so
Lieutenant,
we're looking forward to that.
I'm out of time, but thank you for yours. I just one quick question: is any part of the wall back under construction right now? Do you know?
It is. It is. I mean, we know the federal government is actually constructing border wall. We continue to construct border wall in Texas. So that in itself working together, we're seeing more of that infrastructure taking place right now.
A lot going on. Sir, thank you for your time. A lot to get to. Thanks for coming back with us today. Appreciate it. Good luck. Okay?
Thank you, Bill.
All
Appreciate
right.
it.
Martha.
So a Colorado company attempting to break the sound barrier in its bid to put supersonic passenger planes back into the skies. Plus, from the skies to outer space, what an astronaut is finding so hard to do after being stuck in orbit for so very long.
It was a little bit of a shock, actually. We knew that would be probably, a month or so, honestly. But the extended stay was just a little bit different.
Astronaut Suni Williams, she is still there, Martha. She is not home yet.
My, the patience required in this service.
Tell you, we're going to give her a gold medal when she comes home.
She tries to be so positive.
So she's telling high schoolers, I should say, what it's like being stuck in space without a plan to be there, let's say. Watch.
I've been up here long enough right now. I'm trying to remember what it is like to walk, because I haven't walked, I haven't sat down, I haven't laid down. You don't have to. You can just close your eyes and float where you are right here, and it's pretty incredible.
So just to bring you up to speed here, Suni and fellow astronaut Butch Wilmore are supposed to be in space for like 10 days. On board the Starliner for Boeing. Technical problems forced NASA to keep them on the International Space Station for 7 months now. They're expected to come home in the coming months. There is no
They've
date.
been told that how many times?
There is no date certain, Martha. So Suni, you hang in there, okay? We're pulling for you.
Oh, my gosh.
Good luck.
All right. Fox News getting an exclusive look as a Colorado-based aerospace company inches closer to launching a commercial supersonic flight. Fox Business' Grady Turnbull live in Mojave, California with more. Hey, Grady.
Hey, Martha, big test flight today. The plane is on the runway. The engines have started, and just about 30 minutes or so, that plane you see down the runway from me is going to come back around here and take off and try to hit supersonic speed. This would be the first time ever that a private company has developed a supersonic plane without the help of a government. And the CEO says the plan is to take the information that they learned from this flight and apply it to future flights to eventually develop a commercial supersonic jetliner. Take a listen.
Next week we'll fly again, supersonic, prove to ourselves it wasn't a fluke, and then the really exciting thing happens is everybody who worked on XB1 moves over and we finish what we've started on the airliner and making that a reality for all of us. This is, I think, the only country on Earth where a small team can just decide they want to do something and go do it.
So just to put things into perspective, flying at the speed of sound or above the speed of sound is about twice the speed of jetliners today. So that means you could get from, for example, New York to London in about 3 hours and 45 minutes. The goal is to get there commercially, have people flying on these planes in just about 5 years' time, and it all starts with this major test flight today. Martha?
Wow.
I think that's very exciting.
Sure is. Beautiful.
3 hours and 45 minutes?
Good stuff. We'll take it. You know, what's old is new again, apparently, because they retired to think. I'm taking the Eagles. Am I allowed to do